Today's webinar is entitled Global Trends in Industry, Resetting the Architecture of Industrial Business Systems, and is brought to you by the European American Chamber of Commerce of Greater Cincinnati, with the support and cooperation of the Japan American Society of Greater Cincinnati. I'm Todd Schwartz, Executive Director of the Cincinnati chapter of the European American Chamber of Commerce, and I will be your host today. One quick disclaimer. Please note that all comments and opinions expressed by our speakers today are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of the European American Chamber of Commerce, the Japan American Society, or our members. I'm pleased now to introduce Yannick Schilly, President and CEO of Altix Consulting, and also Board President of the European American Chamber of Commerce. Yannick will be moderating today's discussion. Yannick, could you please introduce our topic and our speakers?
Yes, good morning, Todd. Welcome everyone to this webinar today. I'm very excited to be your moderator today, a topic I'm really passionate about. And I'm really excited to have a fantastic panel assembled today and industry champions participating in this dialogue with me in a structured panel discussion first and in a Q&A session a little bit later. Would like to thank first, before we start, Todd Schwartz from the EACC and Ann Golden from the Japan American Society for teaming up with us, organizing this webinar on something we thought will be of interest for industry in a very special year of COVID-19. So what we will do, I will try to share my screen here. Yeah, so this is the agenda we have prepared for today. So I will start with giving you a detailed introduction of our speakers. I will then set the stage a little bit with the topic of trends in industries and what are general mega trends in the industry, what we have seen before the start of the COVID-19 crisis. And then also, since beginning of the year, what has been the impact of COVID-19 and the impact on industry and manufacturing, and how we will get out of this crisis. What are trends which will be slowed down by COVID? What are trends which might even be accelerated by the crisis? I'm thinking about automation, digitalization, and others, and what's the general impact on our business systems and the architecture of business systems. As we will see during the discussion and the presentation, we need to reinvent ourselves to be ready for the future. So again, I'm excited to be your moderator today. Yannick Schilly is my name, and I'm the President and CEO of Altix Consulting. Altix is a middle market company helping industry champions to compete globally and help them with strategy, innovation, and operational excellence. So let me start with introducing our panelists. So I'm very pleased that Ryan Richey, good morning, Ryan, accepted the invitation to join us on this panel. Ryan is Senior Director of Accounting and Finance for Yasakawa America, Motoman Robotics Division. He's a CPA and a CGMA with over 20 years of experience in the manufacturing industry. He's responsible for all of the accounting and finance functions for North, Central, and South America for Motoman. And he is also currently a board member, board of directors of a couple of manufacturing companies. I had the chance to discuss with Brian on the topic before, and I'm really impressed about his views and about his knowledge and comprehension of the topic. And of course, Yasakawa as an automation robotics company is deeply in line in the topic. So thank you, Ryan, for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you on our panel. I'm pleased as well to welcome Antonio Pagano from Modula Inc. Antonio is a CEO of Modula Inc., a global leading manufacturing company that produces automated storage solutions for over 30 years. Antonio is born and raised in Italy. He has a master's degree in electronic engineering. He has served in many roles within Modula on an international base in sales across Eastern Europe and Asia. He has developed and led what is called the Modular Academy, He has a very dedicated career and a strong understanding of the world of automation and the world of the future of manufacturing and the warehouse automation. So I'm very pleased to have Antonio joining us for this discussion today. He leads now the North American operation and has 2 factories, one in Maine and a beautiful factory you might know here from Ohio. That's the little picture on the left side. That's a very iconic building here in the region, and Antonio will tell us more about Modula and about the factories a little bit later on. Very exciting products. Thank you, Antonio, for joining us today. I'm also pleased to introduce and welcome Beau Easton, President, COO, and owner of Meyer. Meyer is a high-tech manufacturing company supporting the aerospace and power generation industries. Their primary focus is on the hot section components of the gas turbines, so very high-tech components. Meyer services both commercial and military programs and employs 1,500 employees across 13 facilities. They have more than 1,100 machine tools, very impressive manufacturing environment. I had a chance to make a tour with Beau and see how they have evolved the manufacturing operations and their connectivity and lean management. Beau has worked in manufacturing for over 23 years and is a 6 Sigma Master Black Belt, a lean manufacturing champion. His current focus is on Industry 4.0 and Internet of Things and production automation. He has served on several panels speaking on the topic and capturing and utilizing big data to drive strategic decisions. So welcome, Beau, and thanks for joining us. I know that you are doing a special effort even today to be with us, so thank you for your commitment and for your passion for this topic. Okay, very nice. All 3 speakers and panelists will have a few minutes to tell you more about their companies and their products, technologies, and the clients they serve. Before we go there, I want to share from our experience a couple of global trends in the industry, and I will try to watch my time. At the same time, I tend to speak a little bit too much, I was told. So here we have studied over long periods of time trends in the industry, and what I would like to show with this slide are a couple of images on the one side, but also a couple of macro level informations. And the first information is you see over a global period of 300 years an explosion of the world population. Really an exponential curve. So over just 300 years, our world population went from 700 million to 7 billion humans, which is a 10x explosion. It's huge. And you see on the other chart that in the same period of time, over 300 years, we went from literally 0 factories in the world, it was the pre-industrial time, to millions of factories now across the globe. And of course, the development of the world population and the Industrial Revolution helped to understand how this correlates. Nowadays, everybody has multiple phones at home, multiple TVs at home, multiple cars. We change clothes every day, and we are a consumer defined society. So we consume a lot and we change trends very often. This keeps our factory very busy. And you see on this slide 2 pictures of very early stage factories. One is a company in the UK in the first Industrial Revolution. As many of you know, industry really started with textile manufacturing. And the other picture is a picture of BASF in the 19th century in Ludwigshafen, Germany. And we went literally from very dark, hostile, and dangerous environments to today, bright, safe, controlled, and smart environments. So the world of the factory changed a lot over those big time spans. Today, you might have heard as well that everybody speaks about Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is the logical continuity of multiple industrial revolutions. So the first one was the start of bringing force and power in the industry. This was the mechanical revolution with the steam. Now suddenly the production of steel and rails and railway industries was possible, and it was possible to transport heavy parts across the country and build other factories. This was really the start of the industrial age, and was followed by what is called Industry 2.0, and this was the start of the electricity. So the electricity entering factories, bringing light, bringing energy, and bringing many new opportunities in the way we operate and produce. And Cincinnati played a role on that second industrial revolution with very first automated slaughterhouses in Cincinnati with the pork production. Industry 3.0 is the emergence of automation, robotics, and the computer age. So this was in the 70s, 80s, 90s of last century. And we have seen computers entering our factories and the emergence of computer-aided design, computer-aided manufacturing, and the ability to deal with a lot of data and a lot of complexity with an ERP system, a CRM system, and all those tools you are all using today and not questioning anymore. Industry 4.0 is really the next stage. This is the start of the industrial intelligence, connected devices, cyber physical systems, autonomous systems, light out factories, self-controlled production cells. So all of this sounds futuristic, sounds complicated, and most of us are not there yet, but we know that there is an acceleration curve bringing us there. So I will not read through all those terms, machine learning, artificial intelligence. We will talk about that in the panel. But a key observation is speed is the new currency, and we are in an acceleration curve. And as you could not miss automation, robotics, and ERP systems and IT systems in the 80s, 90s, now is the time to continue to embrace technology and prepare our companies for the future of manufacturing and stay competitive on a global scale. All the developments over decades and over 100 of years since the industrialization of the 4T have always been to bring down manufacturing costs, reduce cycle times, and increase speed to market and quality to market to remain competitive. And I mentioned the change on IT systems, the change and the start of CNC and numeric control in our factories, integrated systems. So nowadays, engineers an operator need to master multiple skills. They need to know about mechanics, they need to know about electrics, they need to know about software and how integrated systems work together. Just look at an automobile today. It's a high-tech system with more and more software. So the world of the automobile mechanician changed a lot over time, and the same applies to an operator, a technician, a maintenance technician, or an engineer in an advanced manufacturing system. What make us speak about Workforce 4.0 and advanced human resources strategies to keep the balance between the mastery of the technology and the use of technology. Two more slides I want to show about a modern operation and elements a company can influence and master. And I like this picture of this Formula One team where everything is synchronized. It's about people and collaborative spirit. It's about using high tech. It's about training and improvement. And it's about using the data to continuously improve the system. It's about the pilot, but also the team. It's about the people on stage. It's about people backstage. It's really every single player in the organization. What shows again that whatever is the level of technology people use, people remain at the core of everything we do. And we need to manage this balance and this equation. They are on the other side elements we cannot control. These are external forces. We cannot control them, but like that team on that boat, we can be prepared. Being prepared for storms, being prepared for economic downturns. So there is an extensive list here of all the things that can be going wrong. And we have seen this year how disruptive a pandemic or a sanitary crisis can be. We have seen natural disasters, we have seen technology disruptions, and many things what can influence our comfort zone as a company. And preparing for the next disruption and disrupting ourselves is the best preparation for the future. So in a summary, what we see in terms of global market trends is companies are nowadays really forced towards excellence, bringing quality towards zero defaults, reducing costs and lead times because the winner takes it all. Excellence in R&D and innovation, anticipating the future, excellence in products and product supply, but also in sales and marketing, human resources, and all the support functions, finance, IT, HR, because at the end, like in the sport analogy, everybody on the team matters. Factories and supply chain are experiencing a never seen before transformation of the industrial landscape driven by Industry 4.0 and digitalization. And lean, efficiency and agility remain at the core and are the critical fundamentals. So the question is not if, but when and how it will impact our companies. And as a summary, best practice companies are proactive. They plan at 80% and react for 20%, not the other way around. This is a really important takeaway, in my opinion. And also, best practice companies embrace technology. They don't fear technology, they embrace it, but they keep and value people at the core of their action. Okay, COVID-19 was very disruptive this year, and here there is a summary from the IMF, the World Economic Outlook, and you probably have never seen GDP numbers with a global negative trend on a global scale like this year. So this is impacting all our families, all our companies, sometimes more, sometimes less, but 2020 will be a very exceptional year. So the question is, how is this major crisis now impacting those global trends in industry? And this is what we want to discuss and debate with our panelists today. So the impact we have seen so far this year is a strong rush into cost management, cash management, protecting the assets of the company, right-sizing the company, redesigning the business architecture to be ready for the future, and a new start in the second half of 2020 or latest in 2021, and making sure we are ready for the future and that we have a good corporate fitness. So corporate fitness is like for individual, it's the readiness for the future. It's being in good shape, being in good health, being focused, smart, being agile. I will not read through all of those. If you have interest in those corporate fitness topics, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll be happy to share all the details. But now I would like to start with the panel discussion. I hope that these few slides help to set the stage, and I'm happy now to engage. And again, welcome Antonio, Beau, and Ryan. Thanks for joining me today. And let's make a quick test. Can we hear you? Unmute your microphone.
You hear me?
Yeah, excellent. So gentlemen, thank you so much again for being with us today. You all have very impressive companies and very impressive technologies, and you are masters of the topic we are covering today. So I'm so glad that we have the honor to have you with us. So let me kick off this dialogue with a first question, which is going to all the three of us. So I would like to ask Antonio to start, and then continue with Beau and Ryan, so that we have a clear order. So gentlemen, many thanks again for joining us. My first question is in two parts. The first part of my question is, remind us again a little bit, which is the problem your respective companies solve and which industries you serve, so that we have a little bit for the audience, a positioning, so that we understand how your companies are in context. The second part of my question is, tell us a little bit what you have seen so far in 2020, and what was the impact of the COVID-19 crisis on your own company, but also on the industries you serve. Antonio, would you like to start and kick off this question?
Sure. First of all, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Yannick, for this opportunity, for this invitation. Modula is a manufacturer of a vertical storage solution called VLN, which are basically smart warehouse where you basically use all the height you have at disposal in your facility to store all the items and call them through a touchscreen console. You just type the item code and or description, and you get the item out. Same concept of a vending machine, but it's an industrial machine, and you can use it in all the areas of your manufacturing plant. It can be the warehouse, it can be, for raw material, for samples, for semi-finished goods, whatever. Whenever you have a storage, our product is what we really what makes your operation smarter and under full control. We manufacture here in the United States. We have 2 plants here in the United States. We have 1 manufacturing plant in Maine and 1 in Ohio. But we are producing worldwide. We have our HQ is based in Italy, and then we have another manufacturing plant in China. And then we have branches and dealers all around the world. Answering your second question, what we have seen in 2020. Well, this is, as everybody knows, this has been a very, I would say, crazy year. We have seen that the pandemic impacted several business sectors, but we as a company are extremely lucky because we can serve different industries. So our clients are from food and beverage to automation to aerospace to pharmaceutical. Whoever has a warehouse is a customer of us. So for us, this year haven't been so disruptive because we have seen markets down, but we have seen business sectors up. So in the overall scheme, I think the situation went pretty well. But I can tell you, I've seen a lot of industries, e-commerce, distribution center, pharmaceutical, that are really investing a lot in automation, and this is a trend.
Thank you, Antonio. Beau, would you like to continue?
Sure. So the beginning of the question was regarding our company and the impact. Excuse me.
Right. Yes.
Okay. So a little bit more about our company. We are heavily invested and way down the venture of the IoT and getting everything connected, using the neural networks, machine learning, everything's tied into the ERP system. And I think that has helped us offset the losses because the investment in the automation and the IoT has allowed us to reduce the costs and excuse me, improve the efficiencies to the point where the impact, which is going to be about 25 to 28% this year versus projected revenue, excuse me, and, will allow us to still keep the bankers happy and avoid any layoffs. This was supposed to be a banner year for us. We were going to grow 25 to 30% year over year. And COVID came along and this is what we've got. But we were very fortunate. We weren't necessarily planning for a disaster, but we started down the automation and IoT path several years ago. As for the industry and what I've seen, I could really only speak to the aerospace and power generation. There's 16,000 planes parked with no flights planned. That's huge. The impact to Boeing, which has a huge impact on the market. The Dow tends to follow Boeing when there's big shifts. So I've noticed that the Dow came up more than Boeing did, but neither one is back where they were before, whereas the S&P and the NASDAQ are back up and higher. So there's the flights from March at the lowest point, we're up 400% now. And that 400% that are flying now is 30% less than last year. Mm-hmm. So people are starting to fly again. And that number is higher than we thought.
Excellent. So let's hope that we will see the number of airplanes back in the air going back to normal very soon. And let's hope that the aerospace industry, which is huge in the region here, as we all know, will recover quickly. So we wish all the best that this is back to normal as soon as possible. Well, thank you, Beau. Ryan, would you like to share with us a little bit about Yasakawa Motoman and what are your observations of impact on industry and your customers?
Sure. Yasakawa Motoman is the robotics division of Yasakawa Electric. It's a Japanese company. The robotics division makes up about 36% of the total company. The majority of the revenue and size comes from our drives and motions, which make servos and electric motors, which is why we got into robots. Every robot has multiple servos and motors on them. There's about 400,000 Motoman robots that have been installed since the inception of the company throughout the world. We service really any industry. Like most automation companies, especially in the U.S., our niche is automotive. We have a large automotive contingent. However, with the onset of COVID-19, what we've seen is a shift in demand from the automotive sector to traditional sectors that have not had a lot of automation. People are looking to social distance, one, and then two, it's an issue of getting people, which was an issue before COVID hit, but this has only exacerbated the problem. So we have seen growth in our quoting in areas that traditionally have been lower automation. We've also seen a shift backwards in capital expenditures. Being a capital purchase company, we watch that very closely. I don't know if we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but it's not surprising that a lot of companies are, keeping their war chests closed as much as they can. They're not investing, including in automation, which would be one of the first things that we foresee them opening up and coming back when they do decide to spend.
Very good. Thank you, Ryan, for sharing this perspective. Here's my second question. I was going through this slide deck and talking a little bit about high-level trends in industry. What do you think will be the impact of the COVID-19 crisis? And what are elements of those global trends where we will see a little bit of a slowdown in those dimensions of the global trends, and we will see, in contrary, an acceleration on this side of the equation. So, Beau, maybe you start this time. Where do you see a shift in the pre-COVID and post-COVID situation? Where do you see companies investing even more? And where would you anticipate a little bit of slowdown on the investment side?
Well, I think everybody's slowed down on the CapEx. And unfortunately, the entire aerospace supply chain has had layoffs. We've been fortunate enough not to lay anyone off. We never have. But our customers have laid off up to 30% of their workforce.
Oh, wow.
The supply chain, the vendors above us and below us have all laid off 10 to 15%. And that's going to slow the ramp back up when the COVID is over, because you got to bring people in, you got to get them trained, you got to get the equipment working again. The planes that are sitting on the ground, the 16,000, they're going to need a lot of maintenance because they can't sit. You have to use them. The landing gear, the wings, the engines all have to be used routinely. So I think it's going to be slow for our industry to start back up. In terms of investment, I think this has been a wake-up call for everybody in our industry. I think everybody's going to start investing in the automation, in the IoT, getting the big data, and being able to do more with less. It's certainly helped us, and we are still continuing. We've cut our CapExes significantly, but that's for facilities, technology and things other than the IoT and the automation. We're actually doubling down on that.
Okay.
All available cash that we have is going into those programs.
Okay. So Beau, you have 13 facilities across the globe. Have you always managed implementation across the 13 factories at a time, or have you done pilots and then rolled out to others?
It's pilots.
Okay.
We find the best fit. You know, if we want to test on a large scale, we do it at the Cincinnati campus. If we want to test on a smaller scale, we use the Greenville, South Carolina plant.
Mm.
If we want to do some new technology, we may try it out at our Texas facility.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Beau. Antonio, do you want to continue?
Sure. So as Beau said, you know, also we have noticed a dramatic slowdown in terms of investment in capex. You know, not all the industries, but in general, yes, this has been the trend. Even though, you know, we are now seeing noticing a kind of a no, the companies are restart to invest in capex, which is. But definitely, what I believe is that, as I said before, this COVID situation really teach everybody that, you know, we need to accelerate the investment in automation. You need to be agile. You need to be flexible. You need to be able to manage these kind of situations in a smart and efficient way, which you cannot do if you do not have automation and you do not own and control the automation in your facility.
Okay, thank you, Antonio. What's your perspective, Ryan?
We see the companies reverting back to some of the practices that was taking place in 2008 and 2009 in the American recession, or the worldwide recession, really, and looking at near sourcing as one of those examples. Also looking at company health more than they had. We haven't seen the big hit yet, especially in the U.S. with all of the subsidies that the government has supplied. But when the economy does come back, there will be loss, there will be attrition in the industries, and people are going to have issues with supply. So we see a bigger investment in supply base and logistics, and it will become a bigger factor than it has in the past. And cost is going to be, while cost is still king, it is going to be less of a part of the decision model as it was before. And then I agree with on the positive side, we see the business, business 2.0 growing. We see the companies that have already invested in, the manufacturing 4.0 to be more on the cutting edge of those things. So reduction in travel, a lot more Zoom meetings, people continuing to social distance, also improvements in the infrastructure of companies so they can do more telework. We see that, especially in our Japanese headquarters. Right now, they are all teleworking, and they probably will for the remainder of the year. And they are going to have some large investments in the infrastructure to make sure that that's efficient and effective. So we see that being one of the growths, as well as obviously automation and robotics.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. And I will just continue with you with my next question. So Ryan, you are on the financial side of the equation in the organization. Financial planning. In the 80s, 90s, the US military formed the concept of VUCA, which is describing a new changing world of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Yeah, something which was linked to the different scope of how do we conduct war after in a post-2 World Wars and Cold War, everything was now about terrorism and micro battle place and battlefields. So in a very disruptive environment like now, how do you see the future of financial planning and scenario planning? How do you plan in an environment where everything is changing very rapidly?
So in the near future, financial planning is going to be much more micro-oriented. So it's really short-term. We at Yasakawa update our remainder of the year forecasts every month. And now that's not atypical. However, it's scrutinized a lot more. Obviously, costs are king right now. And so everybody's looking, how can you keep costs down? How can you be more efficient and effective with the assets that you have and the revenue streams that you have? We see that continuing. And then we see the introduction of AI as being a benefit down the road. I think it's too soon to use it extensively because it does have some issues, but we see that being a portion. Because really, I mean, we're in new territory right now. Again, 2008, 2009, it was similar, but different enough that you really can't use the models. And even country to country, the models change. So being an international company, we're able to see what's happening in Europe and in Asia, but those models really don't apply to the U.S. And the Americas because we're having a different experience than they are there. So we see AI as being a benefit down the road, but like any technology, it's in our opinion, it's too young to be useful at this point.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. So Antonio, how did you manage with your leadership team cost management, efficiency, and what actions did you initiate when the crisis started? Have you frozen investments? Have you continued to invest? Have you, in contrary, even accelerated to prepare the company for the future? Tell us a little bit about Modula's approach.
Yes. Basically, this crisis, of course, like everybody else, you know, we had to cut costs and try to get the best out of this problematic year. But on contrary, you know, we have accelerated the investment on a project that actually has been done in partnership with Altix to improve the efficiency of our operation. Our operation here in the United States is relatively young because we started the manufacturing here in 2015. We went through a huge growth in the last few years. So we really needed to take this opportunity. And as I always say to my colleagues, just turn the challenge in an opportunity and try to use this time to improve the internal efficiency. Then whenever the market is going to be back to a steady growth like it was before February, then we're going to be ready and we will have a very efficient operation.
Thank you, Antonio. And I want to take a first question here from the Q&A box. And I would like to start with Beau with that question. So the question is, from Charlie Barrett, given the global slowdown in CapEx, we have seen many companies begin to explore the capabilities of new technology via 5G. Have any of you begun to consider new technologies that will be enabled upon the 5G rollout? How do you foresee that changing your business models?
Well, a lot of our, excuse me, a lot of our interconnectivity and the big data that we're working with, we are going mobile, especially with the younger workforce. They adopt it much quicker than, you know, using the keyboard. And it's also more efficient for us when we're out on the shop floor or even at home to be able to get the alerts and things. So going with the 5G is just another reason to keep going down the mobile path.
Okay.
So we will continue investing in that.
Excellent. And Beau, let me continue on that angle with you on the topic of innovation technology and with a a full portfolio of possible technologies you could invest or not invest in today. How do you, with your leadership team, select of what is important for our company right now and what can wait? How do you prioritize technologies to make the right bets for the very near future?
Okay. First of all, I would say into robotics, more automation, more lights out type work. Then also more big data. One of the things we do is take old machines that are not CNC and they're not MT compatible for collecting the data, and then we're adding our own boxes to collect it, add it into our ERP. And we've developed all kinds of software packages to grab the capacity, the preventive maintenance on the, let's say, the spindles, the heat, the pressures, and you'll have to excuse me. I'm actually fighting the COVID right now.
Yeah. We hope you will recover quickly from COVID, Beau. And again, thank you for joining us despite.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
But in terms of, can you remind me where we were going?
Yeah, the question was on the prioritization of technology selection. With so many choices, how do you cut what is important for Meyer tools today and what can still wait? Okay,
so I'd say the robotics first, the big data next, and then we're working with neural networks and artificial intelligence on various equipment.
Very nice. Thank you so much. I will take another question from the audience here. The question is coming from Steve Jacobson. Good morning, Steve. A big hurdle with IoT Industry 4.0 for big data analysis is getting access to the data. IT departments seem to have the final say in allowing a tunnel into these data streams, but tend to kill it due to virus or hacking concerns. So the topic cybersecurity. Does the panel have any insight on overcoming the resistance of IT teams on data security and IT security? And who would like to start with this?
I can begin to answer it. So Yasakawa actually has been developing and is out in the market a program called iCube Mechatronics. It works with our Yasakawa cockpit that pulls data from basically all of your equipment. It combines production quality data and maintenance. And what we've seen from IT groups is proving that while all software is hackable, this is as safe as you can be. And to talk a little about the 5G question before, we are also looking at that. However, to make sure that our data is safe, we tend to not bring things to market until we've proven them out. That includes new platforms. So giving IT, we'll call it the warm fuzzy, so that they sign off on these things. We make sure that we test it significantly and make sure that it is as safe as it can be. And then we have market research to show the IT departments that these companies have been utilizing this platform for a certain amount of time. They have not had any issues. From the manufacturing side, they really like it. It usually increases efficiency about 3 times, reduces the lead time by about 6. So it's good for both, but IT is an issue, and sometimes that's just also a corporate culture thing that has to be processed at your individual companies.
Thank you, Ryan. And Antonio, I would like to ask you as well. Your systems are also highly integrated in the IT systems of your clients. How does the topic of data integrity, data security come across when you talk about your technology with your clients?
Yeah, these are really big hurdle, and usually we tend to explain which are the pros and cons. Having the control of having all the visibility of your inventory, having all the visibility of your machine. Now we also start to promote what we call the Modular Cloud, which will allow you to control from your phone the status of your machinery, how many errors you have, if you have any errors, which are the performances and so on. But of course, IT usually tends to limit this access. So usually it's a kind of a balanced situation. We usually tend to explain this one to both, the decision maker, the owner, and the IT department. But as Ryan said, usually this is a kind of an internal culture. So we see a stop there sometimes.
Okay. Thank you. While we will get additional questions from the audience, I will ask a question on what are your views on global supply chain? So with COVID now, we have also seen the fragility of having global supply chains across the world with lockdowns and with airplanes and air freight and sea freight being affected. What's your view on the future? We have been going in one direction, which was globalization for many decades. What's your view on the future of supply chain? Will your companies and the companies you are working with go more into a more back to a regional strategy, or will you continue to source and operate globally? Share a little bit your views on the future of the supply chain. And who wants to start? Beau, do you want, or Antonio wants? Antonio, go ahead.
I can start. Well, I can tell you personally, Modula has already started the localization of the suppliers in the United States. This situation really accelerated it. So I really believe that you need to be self-sufficient in the area where you have the manufacturing plant. Mm-hmm. And also we notice a lot of customers now that they are investing in bringing back a lot of inventory, a lot of controls. Mm. And so they ask also our equipments because they want to bring back, they want to have a better control of the supply chain. So I see this a trend.
Thank you, Antonio. While we will allow one more response to that question, if anybody on the panel has further questions, don't hesitate, or in the audience, don't hesitate to place your question in the Q&A section. Beau, Ryan, who wants to continue with the supply chain discussion? Who wants to comment?
I can jump in on that one.
Go ahead, Beau.
One of the things that we've done, we thought we were well distributed because our supply chain is all over. It's in different countries, it's in different regions of the US. What we were planning for were earthquakes, hurricanes, natural disasters, things like that. What we didn't see coming was a global disaster. So going forward, we're going to no longer single source all of our key components. Mm-hmm. So in the past, we would lock it all in, try to get the best price, long-term contracts. What we found is now when a supplier lays off 50% of their workforce and now they cut their production by 50%, we have nowhere to go. Mm-hmm. So in our new contingency plan that we're revising, we're not going to allow sole sourcing on critical components.
Thank you. Ryan, do you have any comments on supply chain? What's your view on the future of a global supply chain in a global company like Motoman?
Yeah, so I agree with both the other panelists. On critical components, we are looking at near sourcing those. Now all of our robots are made in China and Japan, but all the other components go to ourselves. We are looking at more near source those. As we talked about, or as I talked about before, my cost is always paramount. It's becoming less of a factor as availability, and then the overall health of the supplier. So I'm not only laying off, but being able to bring people back, and then are they really even going to be around when everything comes back? Because again, with all the subsidies in the U.S. market, companies have been fairly fortunate, but we still see a cliff when these subsidies and loans run out, and some of these, especially smaller suppliers, aren't able to perform like they have in the past.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ryan. I'm looking at the time, and I know we have limited amount of time for a few more questions. And let's talk a little bit about the people side. We mentioned in the presentation that people are at the core of everything we do. We need to keep them motivated, and we need to keep them trained. So you are all global companies operating internationally. How in difficult times do you keep your workforce motivated, and how do you prepare them also for the future in a high-tech environment? Tell us a little bit about your people strategy. Who would like to start? Ryan, you are still on screen. Would you like to start?
Sure. So motivation, now is hard. We want to keep as connected as we can. So we have more, obviously, Zoom and WebEx meetings than we have in the past. There's more of a culture of reaching out to your coworkers to see how they're doing. More of my time is spent on personnel issues than it has been in the past, and just making sure that the people are getting what they need. And then training, and especially information distribution, is much more electronic, like everybody else, than it has been in the past. No longer are we having the large group meetings with half of the company in large rooms. These are all WebExes or email blasts that go out. And so making sure that you're keeping in touch with those employees on a personal level is very important. So we've been focusing on that.
Very good. Thank you, Ryan. Antonio, Beau, any comments on the people side and training and preparation for the future, motivation?
I'd say in terms of motivation with the whole COVID procedures and, best practices from the CDC, it's tough to keep people motivated on that. It's a big change, wearing the masks, 6 feet distancing, checking your temperature twice a day. Staggering shifts, staggering 2 days on, 2 days off for support personnel. Yeah, it's a big change for them. And our company's been fortunate enough that we've had less, I'd say a half dozen cases and no transmissions at the facilities. They all got it outside of the company. So I don't think, since they haven't observed it, it's not real to them. So it's tough to keep them motivated on wearing that mask.
Yeah.
Fogging up the safety glasses. And even in the offices, keeping the masks on, staying 6 feet away from your buddy. So the motivation there is tough. We keep posting and letting them know that, hey guys, we haven't had to lay off during this. We've only had so many cases. Every time we get one, we report it. We make sure we're transparent with that and whether or not they were in contact with people at Meyer. In terms of the training going forward, I think we do a pretty good job. We have a training team, we have a training center, and with the new technology coming on board in this whole IoT, we've got a lot of good early adoption from the top performers. The underperformers give us a little resistance, so you have to kind of bring them along and convince them. But the mobile has helped with the adoption, but in terms of the training, I think we do a pretty good job.
Excellent.
They're seeing the results.
Yes.
The fact that we didn't have to lay off and the fact that we're going to make it through the year. So.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Beau. Antonio, what's your preparation strategy on the HR side? How do you prepare the team? And you are building and preparing the team. So what's your strategy?
Yeah, well, likewise, of course, this situation is very difficult, so it's very difficult to motivate people. But we have been lucky enough to see this coming because, we have experienced this in China first, and then in Europe. And then when arrived here, we were already prepared. So I think we react pretty quickly. And then these have been really much appreciated by our employees. On the other side, we intensively use all the WebEx webinars and so on. We try to use this time also to train more our sales force. We do a lot of webinars, several webinars every month to train all our team on new features and so on. We've done something very nice though that have been extremely appreciated. We have put together a kind of a video. Everybody was shooting himself saying thank you to the guys that had to work on the shop because of course everybody who was entitled to work from home is still working from home.
Mhm.
So we put together a kind of a homemade thank you video to all our guys in the shop and the guys that are traveling around, all our technicians. And then we published this to all our employees. Have been extremely appreciated. And I think these little things really show, you know, that we are here with you. So
Excellent. I would like to hand over now to Schwartz, and I would like to thank all of you for joining this morning, this powerful early morning discussion. So thank you, gentlemen. This was wonderful. A great pleasure to see you all. Wishing best recovery to Beau, and we are with you, and keep us updated. Thanks, everyone. And Todd, I'm handing back over to you.
Thank you, Yannick, so much for helping us put this together. I want to say that concludes today's webinar entitled Global Trends in Industry, Resetting the Architecture of Industrial Business Systems. Obviously, we offer our warmest thanks to our moderator, Yannick Schilly, and of course also to Beau Easton. Beau, please get well soon. Antonio Pagano and Ryan Richey. We want to thank all of you for sharing your experience, your insight. Thanks to everybody who joined the discussion today, our audience, for your comments and your reactions, and also a deep thanks to Ann Golden and all the people at the Japan-America Society of Greater Cincinnati who helped us to conceive and to promote this event. Just a reminder, all comments and opinions presented by our speakers today are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of the European American Chamber of Commerce, the Japan-America Society, or our members. Please stay in touch with your local chapter of the European American Chamber of Commerce for information on upcoming webinars events. Please note we will be posting a video of this recording to our YouTube channel in the near future, and we'll also be sending a copy of the slides to everyone who registered today. Again, thanks to our panelists. Thanks for joining us, and farewell.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.